You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio, the official anime and manga podcast for InBetweenDrafts.com. I'm Johnny Groney.
And I'm Travis Hymas.
And today we're doing a manga recap of One Piece chapter 165, titled Operation Utopia. And Travis, let's just jump into it. All right, so cover story, we see the Straw Hats, and they have made their base at Alabasta. And Vivi has resolved to join the rebellion. And Travis, you all right?
John, that would be... I think you're a little confused.
What are you talking about?
You seem to be, for some reason, reading from the secret script you received of the season 2 of One Piece live action.
Oh no!
You shouldn't be doing that.
Oh no, Travis! I know what's happening here.
Father Eshira Oda trusted you with that.
I've gone back in time again. I'm so excited for season 2 of One Piece that I've been yearning for a time that was different, when things were different. Like you could go to a social media website and have a nice time and connect with your friends. I guess I want that so badly that my mind just went to when that chapter of One Piece came out. So I'm sorry, Travis.
Well, I remember those days too. I don't know if I remember them as nicely, but if you do want to have that kind of camaraderie, I do have something I could offer you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well,
it's interesting.
You could join the In Between Drafts Discord server, which is linked in the show notes, and you could find yourself not only among one of the hippest and happeningest One Piece spoiler chats in the entire Grand Line, but you can also...
Travis, okay, I hate to interrupt you, but I have heard of this Discord. I might have checked it out. But I heard that this Discord has lots of cutting-edge One Piece theories being shared all the time, with lots of crisscrossing back and forth conversation that is upbeat, lighthearted, and feels like Nakama. And I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Well, if you're not ready to take the plunge, I understand. I promise you it's safe waters. But if you're not, we also have an email address. Would you like me to tell you what the email address is?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm actually pretty interested in that.
Okay, I'll tell it to you, but I will only tell it to you 2 times. It's rookiepirateраdio@gmail.com.
Oh no, where's my pen?
Grab it. Rookiepirateраdio@gmail.com.
Rookiepirateradio@gmail.com. It's so simple.
Yeah, surprisingly, it's the name of the show, if you can believe that.
Well, Travis, thanks to you, now I'm feeling a little bit of peace, which is a little different from the name of this week's chapter of One Piece. That's right. One Piece, chapter 1116, titled Inner Conflict. I don't have that anymore. As usual, we're going to be discussing spoilers for the One Piece manga up until this point, so if you have not yet read the latest chapter, be sure to do so now for free on the Viz website or the Shonen Jump app, linked in the show notes as always. And remember, every new One Piece chapter becomes available to read for free up to 3 weeks after its official release. Or if you just want to read it whenever you want, you can subscribe to Shonen Jump, which both Travis and I do, so we can always go through One Piece and do these elaborate bits. Now,
yes,
Travis...
we highly recommend it.
Oh, yes. I'm stepping all over you, Travis. I'm sorry. Oops.
You're so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this chapter. And before we get started, Travis, I do, because you brought it up, not me, but a little bit of piece of news on the One Piece live action front that it looks like season 3 has also been confirmed at this point, right?
That was a mistranslation. The actor that's attributed to reached out to folks reporting that and said that that's not totally locked in. So
I guess we'll just have to manifest it then.
We'll have to manifest it. I was skeptical because multi-season renewal is not usually a Netflix thing. But hey, Netflix, if you wanted to do that, that would be great.
Yeah, they did it for 3 body problems. So I guess that's why I was like, oh, I guess that's, a thing now. But anyway, we can talk about the chapter. So Inner Conflict, we return to our cover story, Ogre Child Yamato's Golden Harvest Surrogate Pilgrimage, Volume 6. Otsuro gave me medicine and dumplings. So yeah, she's still in the flower capital, still kind of getting what she needs to go on the big trip. And we see Otsuro. We see that, and we also see that sumo wrestler that Luffy took down. Very fun and nice, and I just love seeing the flower capital. And yeah, that's it. The cover story.
Yeah,
there it is.
I do want to call out very briefly that Yamato has many admirers on her way out as well. Again, our She Her King continues to win. Now we can move on.
Yeah, there's like lots of hearts above everybody. I mean, and I get it. It's Yamato, of course. All right, so we're still kind of going around the world, getting people's reactions to things. And the people, like, there are some townspeople we see, for example, who are like, oh, there are weapons that sank the world into the sea. They're still around. And then there are people who are kind of like, oh, how could a war from 800 years ago still be going? Like, wouldn't everybody, like, how would anybody still be alive from that war, right? And nobody knows about this war. So, like, you can kind of hear everybody trying to process all this news. And while they're having these scattered conversations around the world, as we assume, we see Emu in their like butterfly garden thing, super creepy, go up to a picture of someone who appears to be Nefertari Lily. And so we've seen a lot of theory crafters kind of refer back to a picture of a character in Alabasta that Sanji sees at one point. And so I don't know, Travis, you saw that, and if you wanted to say anything about that at some point, but we can move on for now. Now, people are trying to get Vegapunk to explain like what's going on, but then Vegapunk is like kind of sad and says like, oh, I owe you all my deepest apologies, but I need you to understand why. I wanted to create the energy that would power the industry to of the world to come, and though it is still incomplete, I have at last reached a practical stage of my life's work. The mother flame of a fire that never goes out is an energy source that will one day in the future enrich the lives of people all over the world. So as Vegapunk is saying all this stuff, we see a lot of images of Alabasta. And in Alabasta, we see, you know, a lot of sadness over the death of Cobra. We see our what was that duck's name again?
It's
I'm blanking on the duck's name. Peru? Karoo, that's right, yeah. Not a Straw Hat, as a lot of people suspected, because Karu's still in Alabasta, not with Vivi right now, and Vivi's kind of, you know, not too far away from the Straw Hats right now. Anyway, we see her missing poster is still, you know, at the forefront. We see Pell. We see a lot of the Alabasta namestays, many of whom I don't even remember their names. But we're getting kind of a little bit of like the aftermath of Cobra's death and Vivi, of course, being missing still. And we also see, as Vegapunk is explaining the mother flame thing, we get another image of the flame inside a tank of water. And Vegapunk explains that a little piece of the flame has been stolen. Travis, I guess you could say one piece of the flame has been stolen, I guess? Maybe? Huh. And then Vegapunk says the fault of this lies entirely with me. Now remember, Vegapunk recorded this a few days ago before he knew that York is the one who betrayed him and took the mother flame, so we're not quite sure what he's talking about here at this point, but you know, we can obviously come up with some speculation and theories for that. Now, while this is happening, we do cut to, from the last chapter, Nusjuro cut a big chunk of Punk Records in half, and it allowed the Cypher Pole agents and the Seraphim to basically be let free from that basement area. And now Cypher Pole's in the center of the island, and the Marines are trying to get to them, but they're saying that the flames are too intense. The flames from the Buster Call that's blowing up the island and causing all the mayhem and havoc and what for. We then cut to Stussy and Edison, who are talking, and Stussy, I think, is referring to Punk Records being cut in half and says like, oh, there's some major shaking going on up here. What happened? So apparently like the cut, and it's hard to kind of tell what was cut exactly, but it doesn't look like it really affected the labo phase, but like just part of the building. I can't quite 100% piece it together myself, but yeah, basically Edison says it's the basement lab of the labo phase, which I guess is separate. So I guess that's why that they are still kind of like alive and like they didn't just like plummet.
Yeah, because the basement was decommissioned, right? They built a kind of higher up on top of it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, yeah. And they're like more in like the cloud area. Yeah, and then Edison is like, oh, one of those crazy 5 elders is heading your way, Stussy. And is trying to get Stussy to leave and get away from what's happening. But Stussy asks if she can free Kaku. And basically it seems like Kaku is saying, it's like, oh, he was like your friend, huh? I'm like, sorry, we made you, betray him and all of that. There's this kind of weird thing where it's like, was Stussy just kind of like, did she have like this kinship for Kaku and Lucci that, we just kind of assumed she didn't because like they're villains, but like she did hang out with them, they probably shared food together at some point. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about that whole thing of, I get her wanting to help out Kaku because she just seems like a nice person and she's like having her conflict on whether or not she's human still. But Edison's, for sure pushing her to be like, hey, that's what makes you human, that kind of inner conflict that you're having, name of the chapter. And just basically is begging her at this point to try to survive Robin style. And a nice little callback there to Water 7, in fact. And Stussy says she will. So I guess we can assume at this point that she's going to escape. Kaku's going to be okay. And maybe the death flags were a little bit too hasty on my part to call them out.
Well, and then they go grab Rob Lucci and we get another Cypher Pole cover story, right? That kind of seems like it could happen.
Maybe.
Either that or I saw it floated that she just needs a supply of giraffe blood.
Ooh. Yeah. Hey, I mean, are they going to get the Seraphim out of there? Who knows? But anyway, so at this point, Vegapunk's message is still going on. And he explains that around 2 weeks after the theft of the Mother Flame, the piece of the Mother Flame, he said the sky over Lulusia shone with a powerful light. And then we know this was pretty recent. And so we see some people, I think the revolutionaries are the people in that image, like some of the commanders. And they're like, Lucia, and so we know, of course, that like they're aware of what happened already because they've run into Sabo. They know, they've found the people who escaped and everything. Vegapunk says, and the kingdom vanished without a trace, according to reports. After that was when I observed the first signs of worldwide earthquakes. As a scientist and with utmost pride in its development, I can tell you this. Nothing but the Mother Flame could have created so much energy. So Vegapunk is basically outing that an ancient weapon apparently was used or was powered up and used to destroy Lulusia. We see, like, in fact, a Marine who is aware of this, looks like a Vice Admiral, being like, oh, that was an ancient weapon. Someone did that to Lulusia, is I think one of the people on the Revolutionary Island is mentioning too. We also see that One Punch Man King, I forget his name, the one from Dressrosa, and he is kind of yammering on about like, oh, Lulusia is gone, and someone's like, really? Oh, not to my knowledge. And he's like, well, go find out. So yeah, apparently like this happened so recently that even people like close to Lulusia aren't even aware that it has totally vanished, which makes sense because it probably would take some time for that information to really leak out. It's not like the news was aware of that either, as far as we know. Vegapunk continues in his message, very apologetic, fully like bowing in shame. Like, I know nothing about who might have carried this out, but the results speak for themselves. My actions have led directly or indirectly to the loss of many human lives, a fact that weighs most deeply upon my soul. I'm so sorry. I've inadvertently proven that the man-made disaster that once sank the world is possible again. So we see some people, it looks like we go back to maybe it's Drum Island or somewhere in the North Blue, but people are like, no, Vegapunk, it's not your fault. And then we go back to Wano, very interestingly. We see Momonosuke and Kinemon. Momonosuke is like, what? Does that mean Pluton is? And then Kinemon's like, shh, don't say anything. It's like, I don't know why he's saying that. I guess we do see there are some samurai around there, but like, why don't we trust them?
Tama's there, like...
Yeah, it's Tama.
It's probably privileged knowledge.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, we're in Wano. It's not like we're in, Town or something.
Well, yeah, but you got to remember, too, like, the person who held that secret is also supposed to be dead. So it's probably a multi-layered, like, let's not disrupt people too much about this one.
Kinemon just doesn't want he's doing this to the community, the fandom. That's all it is.
Yeah, right, yeah. It's like,
by the way, we do also get a shot of Crocodile, who I know you and I have been very curious what Crocodile has to say and think about all this stuff going on. Vegapunk's message continues, not just over Crocodile, but also over Shirahoshi in Fishman Island, and he says, in the past, there were 3 ancient weapons, and Joy Boy attempted to preserve them for the future. Why would he do that for such dangerous things? Have we not sunk far enough? Who is the true evil here, and who fights the good fight? Yeah, Travis, that is interesting. Why would Joy Boy want ancient weapons, to sink the world? And, unless, he was a fishman. And anyway, sorry, I was just rambling on, trailing off a little bit on the theory that I came up with once.
We'll visit that theory, I'm sure.
And then we also see Sengoku as the message plays. He's like choking on his food. And the message says, "The day will come when all of the answers are laid bare. And I warn you, that moment will happen when we reach the very precipice of the world's drowning." So apparently Sengoku has to be kind of aware about the ancient weapons. My suspicion is that he doesn't know that Leloucia was destroyed by one. And that's why he's kind of like freaking out. But he's just like eating and eating and eating. It could just be out of like panic and anxiety.
I would like to gesture back to a theory I made, which is that they know this already.
Yes. I think that's where I'm leaning as well. Sengoku knows, Akainu knows, and maybe not many more than that, honestly. Just like the fleet admirals.
Admiral class, maybe vice admiral class.
Maybe
probably
Kizaru,
not,
maybe yeah.
Maybe Gart, because Sengoku got drunk one night and told him, like, that seems possible.
The only reason I don't think it would, like, Kuzan and Fujitora, like, I think, like, it would have to be, like, a fleet admiral, because I don't think that they would be so blasé about Kuzan running around,
That's true.
Being a pirate, if that were the case. But anyway, Vegapunk says, "The Void Century is still ripe with mystery. However, there are some who have learned the truth." And so we see Marine headquarters, we see Akainu whose cigar has basically just exploded at this point, like quite literally. And he says, "You're really going to tell them everything, Vegapunk?" So yeah, clear indication that Akainu is well aware of all of this. Vegapunk says, "The king of the pirates' crew." And so the Marines are like, "What?" We see Crocus, we see Laboon still with the straw hat logo. "Pirates, why? Why are the secrets of the world in the hands of pirates? We're all in terrible danger." And so that is a pretty funny and reasonable thing for regular townsfolk to say out loud, for sure. And then York has this interesting moment where she says, "Hey, wait, that doesn't make sense, Stella. How did you know that I stole the Mother Flame? I stopped synchronizing. You couldn't have known. And I know you're terrible at lying and acting." So this kind of confirms something that I don't remember if the manga ever fully confirmed it, but people were saying like, oh, York probably was able to get away with things because she stopped synchronizing. It might have been mentioned at one point, and I just forgot. But if it didn't already, that this kind of, puts that to bed.
This clarifies it.
Right. And I think, it was a pretty obvious explanation there. And then Stella said, "You were truly shocked when you found out," and so we get a quick little flashback to when Vegapunk was like, "York, this was all yours." So yeah, I mean, clearly he wasn't acting, that he didn't know that it was her. He apparently thought it was somebody else, or, it was all, I don't know. It's very strange because Vegapunk is very smart, Travis. And so like, if he had a suspicion, I'm curious why it took him so long, or why he wasn't able to figure it out himself. But I guess he's just book smart, not people smart.
Yeah, clearly.
York says, "You received the information about Leloucia and then observed the data? What does that mean? When? The timeline doesn't add up." She's like, literally, York is like a Redditor at this point. But yeah, so she says, "But if that's the case, I've been wrong all along. He wouldn't do anything as tepid as just hiding the transmission transponder snail." So yeah, she's starting to kind of figure out where it is. So she calls the 5 elders and says, "5 elders, I know where the transponder snail is." And she says, "Absolutely." And they're like, "Oh, you're certain?" She's like, "Absolutely. I'm Vegapunk too, And so she says it's under the protection of the Iron Giant in the Fabrio phase. One of the more popular theories, not just with you and me, Travis, but I think a lot of people have been speculating this, that it was in the Iron Giant. It fits perfectly. And look at that. Big W. But yeah, so, at least we think it's in the Iron Giant. York seems to think, but hey, it's not 100% quite yet, just like 99. But then, yeah, Vegapunk's message continues. When they learned, he's talking about the king of the pirates crew, when they learned all of the true history, why did they drift apart without telling anyone? Why didn't they act on it? And then we see Rayleigh at Sabaody Archipelago, and we see his adoring wife being like, Shiki, you've had too much to drink, Rayleigh. It's not like you to be this wiped out. So he's just been drinking and drinking. He's like, I'm just an old man now. And you're telling them too much, Vegapunk. Don't be a fool. Us old folks should keep our secrets. Don't rob the young'uns of all the fun. And then he says, "Right, Roger?" It's very sweet. And that is the chapter. A very short chapter this week, and I think we have a break week coming up. Isn't that right?
That's right. Yep. Looks like it.
Travis.
Right? Oh, wait.
Wow.
You know what? I'm seeing an update expected this week, so maybe not.
I don't think we are, because I usually get my raws from one place, and I have not been informed that raws are coming my way. So could be wrong, but yeah, I think it's 1 week at least, if not 2.
Viz says 5 days, so Viz could be wrong. It's very possible Viz is wrong, but that's at least what it says on the app.
I guess we will find out. I'm not seeing 5 days for mine. Oh wait, now I am. It wasn't before, but oh yeah. So yeah, maybe I'm not going to get the raws until tomorrow then. Mm-hmm. But yeah, usually I hear about it we're recording this on a Tuesday. So anyway, that's not relevant. So Travis, King of the Pirates, how about it?
So first thing I want to do is kind of jump back a little bit, because it's again one of these things where we're really getting the vibes that we're really approaching the ending of all of this. I want to go back to our scene with the revolutionaries, because it's not just the revolutionaries and a random marine here. This is a deep cut cover story reference. What we have here is the girl from the farm that makes the milk that goes in that marine's coffee. And we know this because of the Ace cover story where he went to Lulusia. So she's not just recognizing this as like normal horror. She's one of the few people who left with the revolutionaries before Lulusia got destroyed, and is horrified at realizing what happened.
Yeah, I don't remember who mentioned it. Yeah, because I remember somebody mentioned this. Maybe it was Tekking. And I was like, wow, how do people recognize characters so easily? I'm in awe.
People have made remembering One Piece characters a cottage industry. What's really impressive to me is that Oda is making the point to keep making these connections. You didn't need to do this. This is one of those things where this is the payoff for getting to read so much of this story. And it's kind of Oda showing off too, because it makes the most sense for these characters to be in these panels if you have all that information. Otherwise, it just goes on by, and it's great. If you're one of those Tekkings or Artours or the really obsessive Redditors, these are your payoffs. You've waited a really long time for these to be worthwhile for you, and it's paying off. So good job, everybody. Well done. Good job reading the manga.
Yeah.
Other than that, short chapter, definitely
short and sweet.
Short and sweet. I feel like we're at the end of the message. Do you get that vibe, or do you think we still have a little bit more here?
Yeah, I think that there might be something else, but I don't know if it's going to be a revelation more so than Vegapunk, maybe a call to action. Something that a message that Vegapunk is going to leave for the world that's going to be his calling card. Because typically, think like Yasue, typically when we have a character dying and they have this big declaration, I mean, going all the way back to Goldie Roger, right? There always seems to be one final kind of like rallying cry. And I think for Vegapunk, it could go in all kinds of directions. It could be something as simple as him smiling and explaining his dream and why he hopes to accomplish it, and saying that like the next king of the pirates will be able to do this or that, or, there's plenty of reason for him to kind of like sell out the world government even further. He's been a little bit of a fence sitter at this point with the ancient kingdom and the world government before it, but he hasn't really talked about the world government as it is today, right? And I could see him being pretty yikes about that sort of thing. I don't think he knows about Emu. I don't think he's Sabo. I don't think he's like Sabo in the sense that he saw anything in the throne room, because there's just no way that they would keep him alive at that point, right? But I think he does suspect that there is something weird going on with them, especially because I think that when he saw them in their yokai forms, he wasn't like crazy surprised or anything. And I think him researching devil fruits and be more aware of that stuff, if he could finish the message with something about devil fruits, that final kind of like, oh, we've been waiting for this, of like, I know where the devil fruit tree is. I don't know. Something kind of fun like that would be interesting. Or it could just end with him being like, Bush did O'Hara. You know what I mean? Like there could just be this like conspiracy theory out that he gets to do that's deserving, because we know O'Hara is so close to his heart.
Yeah, I think about him we're pausing here, him talking about Roger and doing the conspiracy board thing that Ivankov was doing. I appreciate, by the way, that multiple times during this arc, we've just have characters now participate in the One Piece theory crafting. That's so much fun. Proof that Oda really does like watch some of these and like sees what people do. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact that he's not only like tying it back to Roger specifically, but like strictly confirming that this is something that they knew. Number one, I'm curious how he can prove that. Because if all he has is the poneglyphs from O'Hara, how does he know? That's kind of one of my questions. The second question that I have is this going to be another like the One Piece is real moment?
Yeah,
because
I think
he's kind of tacitly connecting these two things.
Yeah, if he could end with him even talking about the One Piece, I didn't even consider that fully, but that's a good point. Just because my assumption reading this was that he knows about the significance of Laugh Tale in his research, and so that would of course be the thing that ties Roger and his crew to knowing the secret of the Void Century. There has to be something about that island and its connection to the Ancient Kingdom and all of that stuff that led him to the conclusion that, well, if he was able to make it there, then he found the final poneglyphs or whatever, and he was able to blah, blah, blah. Or it could be that it could be as simple as Vegapunk has talked or has had correspondence with somebody from the crew and knows from them. And that's part of what I think I've seen a lot of the revitalizing of the speculation around what the Roger Pirates have really been up to since they left Laugh Tale. I know a lot of this really got sparked up during the Oden flashback when that kind of came out or came to its climax with them finding Laugh Tale and that revelation. But I remember even then people were like, oh, now it really does make even more sense why Crocus, is at Reverse Mountain, why Rayleigh is at, is helping people do the ship coding at Fishman Island. Like, clearly they're trying to usher in the next generation. They were too early and they want to be there to kind of help, the pirates be able to get to the Grand Line and not just be cut off by the Marines at every turn. And that's kind of led us to this point where there's a third, probably, hopefully, maybe going to be a third, Roger crew member who's going to be the one to bring us into the next thing. Could be Shanks. That's the obvious, person, but he wasn't there at Laugh Tale. So who else could it be? There are plenty other folks that we don't know their whereabouts yet, but that could tie to Vegapunk because we're in that area and it could be somebody that Vegapunk was able to find and communicate with. I know we've already talked about the man with the burn scar theory stuff. I mean, Travis, there's so many directions this could go in, but do you think that that's plausible?
I 100% think it's possible. I floated that very theory that the crew saw itself as kind of the vanguard of the age. Oden wanting to tear down the borders of Wano is tied directly to his adventure with Roger. That's why it's all in the journal. That is another stage of this. You could say that that's your third Oden pirate, right? Or your third Roger pirate doing that already, is Oden kind of sowing the seeds to bring those borders down. But I've floated on here the crackpot theory that Big News Morgans operates the way that he does using a Zoan devil fruit, that he's not a mink, but that it's a Zoan transformation. That has been revitalized in the wake of this, that there is going to be some sort of indication.
That's right. Shared it in the Discord.
Yeah, it's back. I would kill for that vindication. I don't know that they'll go that far as to make this like this concerted effort, as much as it's just a bunch of Roger's crew inherited his will kind of like and naturally brought themselves to that conclusion. That would be probably how it plays out. But how it plays out in the regards to Vegapunk's message, I really just feel like we're about at the climax of it. We're gonna hit the big crescendo. And I feel like that's going to be the thing that actually starts the race for the One Piece. Because we do have all of the players, we have all of the pieces, we know Shanks is moving, we know Blackbeard's making moves, we know Buggy now wants to actually go after it, obviously we have Luffy. But now, with this information, the world government now has a vested interest in actually caring where Laugh Tale is. I think to them now they're also in this race.
I do want to further explain the Big News Morgan thing, just in case people were like, wait, what are you talking about? So there's a Roger pirate named Mr. Momora, or Misuta Momora. And we see him in the Oden flashback, and he's just like a guy. You know, he has a hat that has like a beak-looking bill, and it has 3 circles, like golden circles. And if you look at Big News Morgan, it kind of like suggests that Big News Morgan could literally be Mr. Momora, always just in his hybrid form. And I've definitely have really liked this theory since I saw it, because the idea, you know, of him kind of like behind the scenes doing this stuff as a Roger pirate, and the whole like the press and like setting up the world government being subverted by the people in this way. I mean, I think it would be really hilarious, especially because he is part of the underworld. It's not like he is like a world government toady. So yeah, I think that's great. I think that would be a wonderful, wonderful revelation if it's true.
I would love it, genuinely. And yeah, that hat does look like if Big News Morgan's was a sports mascot, that hat was merch of him. That's what it kind of looks like. It's pretty wild. But could also be nothing. Again, I could see that happening. But in any case, it really does feel like this is going to be like the shot in the air to start the race is really where I feel like we're at now.
I also love seeing that somebody shared this thing about how the foreshadowing is on another level with Oda, because it says Oda's writing about a world that's secretly sinking into the sea while making his author's avatar a man with the fish head who's been hanging out underwater since chapter 1. Everything has been in front of us this whole time. That's classic Oda right there. Oda's cooking from the start.
He always was.
Join the Discord if you want to see all this stuff that we share in the Discord and have fun and goof off. Okay. Travis, can we talk about Stussy?
Yeah.
Stussy. I like Stussy. Stussy is nice. Stussy deserves to live. You disagree?
I totally thought you were going to like start a new Straw Hat campaign.
No. I don't think Stussy is a Straw Hat. I think Stussy has the energy of this kind of like auxiliary ally, if nothing else, but you know, kind of like a Beiji, like, you know, a Lola kind of character who's just like, the Straw Hats, I like those nice whippersnappers. Do you think we'll get Stussy coinciding with Miss Buckin? Because we know that Miss Buckin and Marco are going to try to save Weevil. Cypher Pole Zero is kind of almost, it's like half destroyed at this point. But we do have Stussy and Kaku and maybe Lucci getting out of Egghead alive. And what are they going to do next? I don't know, because they're probably going to be terrified for their lives. Stussy for sure. Kaku maybe, and Lucci maybe.
Yeah, I think, you know, I hinted before that maybe it's a cover story. That could be fun. How many more cover stories do we have in us? I don't even know. But
I feel like the Wano one's going to have to take a while, right?
Yeah.
We haven't even left the flower capital, Travis.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of wild to think about that. Like, we've barely started that one. And that's after a long time without one. Like, we spent weeks and weeks and weeks being like, are we just not getting cover stories anymore?
I think it was like just 30 chapters or so.
Yeah. Which is a year almost in One Piece time. So
yeah, because Germa, I forget, but Germa was a little bit long too. I mean, it started during Wano and it kind of kept going and going.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, especially now that cover stories can just absolutely overlap with ongoings in the story. I think it's possible. I would like them to leave. I like this little exploration at the end here after all of this stuff we've done about the soul and the body, and kind of with Kuma and Vegapunk splitting into the satellites and now doing this message from beyond the grave, that we're kind of capping that off with Stussy going, well, now what do I do? What am I as a clone, as an assistant to Vegapunk, as this person? Like, all I really have left is this kind of fake friendship that I had that I kind of am attached to. I think that's a fun kind of direction to take that character. And I would think it would be fun to interrogate that further by putting her in front of the person she was cloned from. That could be... I feel like the original would probably just like try to adopt her as her perfect daughter. That I feel like she would love that actually, but I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that.
Have we already talked about, shifting gears to Lily and Vivi? Have we already talked about, I feel like I might have talked about Lily being Toki or like related to Toki before. Did I
discuss that? We did discuss that. We discussed more specifically like them either being related or you did, I think, float the idea that like she was taking a pseudonym and fled. I do think having an image that really, really lines her up with Vivi kind of rules that out.
Yeah, because that doesn't look like Toki to me.
Related does still feel like an option to me, because I think it would be curious to connect the families of Alabasta and Wano together.
That's why I like it, yeah, because I mean, the hair thing definitely is a very unique thing for these characters, and I just like the idea so much of Toki like moving forward in time with a mission related to like being told by Lily to do this specific thing, you know? There was a theory on Reddit, I think just today, where somebody was speculating that Toki might have taken the gum fruit, the Nika fruit, with her into the future, and that is why the Gorosei were never able to recover it until Shanks gets his hands on it after Oden's death, after Roger's death. And so there could be some like missing pieces there of like Toki was like safeguarding this fruit and kind of trying to find the next Joy Boy and all this stuff, and maybe thinking that Joy Boy would be in Wano for some specific reason, which we know would make sense based on like, oh yeah, maybe it's Wano because, you know, there's something related to a prophecy or some kind of thing related to, you know, Joy Boy and the borders and the timing and all that stuff. So I like that theory quite a bit, because we still don't have a good explanation for like why the world government wasn't able to find this fruit for the longest time. That said, I know you and I have talked about how somebody apparently might have awakened the fruit a couple hundred years ago when the fishman pirates were not liberated, but like when they started to have rights and stuff, and the Iron Giant kind of showed up. And Travis, I know we've talked about this before, where of course, you know, I think Joy Boy was a fishman and that stuff is pretty connected, but you know, you can still be wrong about it, or I can still be wrong about it. Who knows? One of us has to be right.
I want to interrogate the actual, like, the Nika fruit a little bit. The idea of it slipping through the world government's clutches is like a will-based thing kind of makes sense more than somebody had it and then it got lost. Only because we know that before Shanks had it, it was in government custody. So it would make kind of sense that that's a thing that's happened more than once. Plus, we actually know when Toki arrived in our timeline, and she didn't have it with her. So it would have been lost at that point if it had.
We don't know that she didn't have it with her, though, right?
I mean, she was literally she didn't have anything to her name. It would be a heck of a sell to obscure that one detail. It is still weird to me that we have a character from this period of time. And, you know, we have a couple of characters from this period of time now. We have Zunesha, we have the giant, I guess if you count that as a character. We have Emu. But Toki is the most talkative of those characters. And it's very curious that we just never really did anything with that. That feels like a either just like the world's worst tease or something else. Like, I think that's why we keep coming back to her. It's
unfinished business.
It's a missed opportunity if otherwise, right? Like,
I think it's coming. Like, I just think that it's being held off for now. But like, here's another thing then, Travis. What if that's why she was going to Wano, because she didn't take the fruit with her. She knew it was hidden in Wano. Somebody managed to hide it in a very specific place. Nobody else knew about it, but she knew about it and went forward into the future to make sure that the person who needs it could get their hands on it. And that was why she was so desperate to get to Wano and all that stuff. And there's like some hidden, you know, thing that we don't know about, but she and Oden, after the Roger stuff, we're able to find the fruit in Wano, and there's just like more stuff there that we don't know about. How did the world government get it? To be continued.
The other thing
could be all kinds of explanations. Kaido took over, so
the other thing about the moving forward in time is that it's not the only situation in which the mysteries of Joy Boy and the Ancient Kingdom and the Void Century and now the Gum Gum Fruit and the Ancient Weapons, all this stuff. It's not the only time where we've had it implied that something tied to the One Piece requires a specific moment in time, something that was predicted, which Toki does do, by the way. She does issue a very specific prediction at the end of her life that ties directly into effectively Luffy ascending as Joy Boy, for lack of a better word there. And it kind of just brings me back around to the question of how much do they know? Like, how much of this is fact? Because if you have a fruit that can literally transport somebody to the future, who is to say that somebody doesn't have like observation hockey that powerful in that time and age? Who's to say that there isn't a devil fruit that just gives you that ability to predict the future? We know some people can be born with that. We have Madame Charlie on Fishman Island that does that. So it begs to me the question, like, if Toki was supposed to do all of these things, we know that she was going to Wano, but we didn't really expect her to stay in the time frame that she was trying to. She was trying to get to Wano, but not necessarily in time for the dawn, right? That's kind of weird, unless there's more to it than that. So I find myself coming back around to things like, what do the Roger Pirates know? Do they know how this is all going to play out? Is this a Destiny story? What's going on here? What are the secret little pieces of knowledge that they're holding back on for us?
I want to talk about the ancient weapons on that note. And the YouTuber Sawyer7Mage had a very interesting theory where he put it out there. He said, well, hey, what if is a fourth ancient weapon? And it's just something that Vegapunk isn't aware of because there were three, but then there was a fourth, and the world government has their hands on it. And so that's why Momonosuke maybe wrongly believes that Pluton has somehow gotten into the hands of, I know that we could talk all day about, like, is Pluton a floating or a flying battleship or something like that? Because we know that, Frankie had the blueprints to Pluton, and shout out to the person. I think I saw somebody resharing an old theory that the Sunny is Pluton, and that, like, Frankie burned the blueprints and then created it. I just love the audacity of that theory. It's so great. I don't hate it. I don't believe it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think it's possible, because we seem to be leaning towards the idea that this mother flame is necessary in the activation of the weapons, which I know is weird because one of them is a person, but maybe there's like a boost that it can offer or like control that it offers. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the connected tissue. I mean,
yeah.
What is the thing that connects the drums of liberation? How Luffy's heartbeat is able to power the Iron Giant? How does that connect to the voice of all things? This idea of, like, being able to communicate, and that also be some kind of trigger point, and the weapons themselves. It's just like I just feel like we have all the puzzle pieces, Travis, but they're flipped, so we can't see the picture. We just see the gray, and we see how the little grooves. And I feel like Oda's going to put, like, one piece, put it all together, flip the puzzle over, and it's going to be a bowl of ice cream.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that we don't talk about in this corner of the conversation as much is the bloodline elements as a detail.
Because we're not talking about Naruto, I mean.
Well, yeah, just like the fact that there is an identified, like, genetic marker for something like a devil fruit, and so much time was spent establishing the rules of that over the past several arcs. We have Whole Cake, where we find out about Germa 66. We have the King stuff talking about King's DNA, which then turns into the Seraphim. which we then get a big crash course from Vegapunk on. And that reverberates backwards all the way into Punk Hazard with Momonosuke's Devil Fruit. We know that the ancient kingdom was an advanced civilization. So everything we know scientifically in the One Piece world right now through our characters, it's a safe assumption that they did too, and beyond. That's why, again, I keep coming back to this idea that the Devil Fruits are probably not inherently mystical. There may be something more scientific to their creation, or maybe they all did start as modifications and then became Devil Fruits after their original users were done with them. About that.
You're starting to sound like a mads scientist at this point.
A mad scientist. Ha ha ha. But like, why is one of these weapons a person that like is born every so often through like passing down this trait? It's got to be an element, right? Like Shirahoshi inherited this from down the line, right? That has to be how this works. We know Momonosuke can communicate with Zunisha, and Zunisha can bring down the walls, and we've been trying to connect all those pieces. What if that is also an element?
And Shirahoshi can communicate with the Sea Kings, right?
Yeah, that's what makes her Poseidon, right? But like, how does that work? She was just born that way. Well, now we know that you can in fact have people who are just born that way, and you can also mess with those people's DNA. So I'm not saying Shirahoshi was experimented on. I'm saying that yes, John, the fishman did exist in the ancient kingdom, and somebody there was experimented with or did the experimentation. That's what I'm saying. And I think that plays more into the creation of the ancient weapons than we really understand yet.
I just want a fishman like scientist in the ancient kingdom who's like Vegapunk on steroids.
That would be cool.
We have a lot of comments here, and so I'm sure comments will cover a lot more stuff we haven't even gotten to yet. But here's one from Cypher J. Cypher said, well, let me ask some still open questions and posit a future theory. First, who had the dark fruit before Blackbeard, since he said he had been searching for it specifically? I also don't believe what others suggest that when a Devil Fruit user dies, the fruit appears close by after. It has never been stated that way. Now to my last query and theory. What happened to the Time Fruit when Toki died? I don't think we have seen the last of the Time Fruit. I think in the big battle to come, Uranus will be used to destroy an island. Perhaps Wano, and 2 ways people can be saved there. First, go to Onigashima and have Momonosuke create fire clouds to float it away from the blast, and also use the Time Fruit to send the people a day or so into the future and have Shirahoshi have the Sea Kings bring Noah there after the island itself is destroyed, so the people end up on Noah in the near future. I am betting that it takes the weapon a lot of time to reload. We don't know who had first of all, we don't know who had the dark fruit before Blackbeard. We just know that Thatch was the one who found it and Blackbeard killed him for it. So certainly something to consider there, especially if that was a fruit that was kind of like held onto, or, kind of similar to what I was guessing with Toki, that it's like a very special fruit. How did it get out there? I'm sure like with the Blackbeard flashback, those pieces will come together. As for the Time Fruit, we've talked about that, right, Travis? Of like, hey, where is that thing? Someone find it. Someone use it.
Yeah, right. Like that's another like missed opportunity, right? That's just sitting there. It could just
be like a cheap pirate, in the South Blue who's like using it to go forward, like 2 weeks, just to like skip doing their chores.
Well, the funny thing about it is basically on principle, if it has been eaten by someone, we probably can't see who it is yet. We haven't gotten to there. They're waiting for us to catch up.
Yeah, especially if Toki, had more instructions that we didn't see of like, when I die, get this fruit and use this fruit to do that. Even if it was like a Roger Pirate got that message or something, and maybe there's a Roger Pirate who isn't going to show up until like now. Or something like that. I don't know. I'm grasping at every straw hat I can find.
Yeah, it is random though, so that is a good catch. Like, it doesn't have to be nearby.
Yeah. Interesting idea that like, what if you could use, this power to like the Time Fruit to like save everyone by sending them into the future, when basically like you do this like world destroying event that would kill everyone, but you save them by pushing them somewhere else. I kind of like that idea. And then everybody just ends up in this paradise Dr. Stone style,
Yeah. that could be interesting.
I don't know how you would be able to use that power at a global scale, but we are talking about ancient weapons, so I mean, anything's possible, right?
Yeah.
M Joker Boy has a fun little comment here, just kind of breaking things down, which is pretty helpful. He said, well, basically, the 3 super weapons are Uranus/Zeus, god of sky, clouds formed in Lucia, and a tremendous flash of light, wipe it out from the surface of the earth. Zeus-like powers. Still not confirmed if it's a person or a machine or a warship. It needs mother flame for fuel. So maybe it's a machine or weapon that only answers to a certain person, which is, in my theory, Imu. And then he says Neptune/Poseidon, god of the sea, whereas reborn, resurrected as Shirahoshi, where she can control the sea kings. That is why Noah was built by the fishman, so that the humans on the surface can survive with it. And with that super huge ship, the only way for it to sail is by commanding the sea kings to pull it. And then third, Pluton/Hades, god of underworld. Some says, but not 100% confirmed, that it is a highly advanced warship capable of mass destruction. A warship needs a captain. My theory is not just anybody who found it can claim it. It will only answer to Hades itself, and who represents Hades very well in One Piece? None other than Marshall D. Teach, aka Blackbeard. Hades' powers are darkness, manipulation, and invulnerability, earth manipulation, shape-shifting, not for now, but soon. Sound familiar? Yes, it is the powers of Blackbeard. We all know Blackbeard came from a rare/legendary bloodline, and his body is above normal for a human being. Maybe it is the reason why he can have multiple fruits. So yeah, basically Luffy has Neptune, world government has Uranus, and Blackbeard has Pluton. Another theory is Luffy/Nika/Joy Boy has a natural and eternal source of mother flame. Nika is the god of sun. Okay, so lots there, Travis. But can I just say, with the Neptune stuff, very good point that the fishman, building the Noah could be part of the conflict in the ancient kingdom of like, oh, maybe they wanted to cleanse the earth and flood it. But Joy Boy was like, no, we need the Noah because humans don't deserve to die. And that was maybe that was his inner conflict, Travis.
Yeah, I still don't know. Something had to drive him to the sea, right? Like,
he's a fishman.
It's the big, well, I mean, he would have already been at the sea. Like, what is the moment where Joy Boy stops being a member of a kingdom and starts being a pirate?
He wants to go visit the other races. He wants to go to the Red Line. He wants to go to the Sky Islands, things that probably I think we know for sure existed at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about the Red Line. One of the grand theories is that it was formed as a result of all of this, but some version of it, right? Because the Lunarians were supposed to live up there. We believe. Right. But was it the same Red Line? Was it really all these islands stitched together? Was it one?
I think it was hollowed out. I think I talked about this once, right? Where I think that basically the reason it's such a neat line is that there was like this big continent, and the red line is like the coast, like the edge of it, and it was just like hollowed and destroyed out or something in order for the world to flood. And so that's why like it's such a neat cut thing, because it was like very precisely crafted. And yes.
Yeah. This whole idea of like the islands being like the pieces of a continent. Is it one continent? Have we decided that this is like this is a whole big...
It's called Pangea Castle, Pangea, Travis.
Right? Like, it has to be. So when were the Lunarians living on top of the Red Line?
A few days ago.
In One Piece time, that's probably it.
Who knows? I mean, we could get all kinds of fun lore. There could be a thing of like maybe the Lunarians were once in charge, but the fishmen, created the ancient kingdom, and like the oppression of Lunarians was one of the first major wars or something. Who knows? Like, it could be all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that we have Vegapunk just kind of saying it all out loud to the point where like even Rayleigh is like, "Shut up, old man. You're spoiling the fun." But there's still so much that we're missing.
Mm-hmm. Plenty. And speaking of things that are missing, Yellow Monk said, "Isn't inside the Iron Giant a better translation than under the Iron Giant's protection? The latter made it seem like Vegapunk knew that the Iron Giant will come online and protect the transponder snail." I kind of agree. I think that that's just like splitting hairs. I think that it's just saying that like it's in the Iron Giant and Vegapunk just hit it inside of it, not expecting it to turn on. That's kind of how I came away from it.
it's a payoff to to York's thought process. The reason she says it's under the protection of, it's the Sherlock Holmes moment of like understanding why he put it there. It's in the giant because nobody else knows that the giant is on the island. It's in a part of the island that it wasn't supposed to get to, and it is extremely difficult to get inside and you can't operate it. It is the perfect hiding place because, in the worst case scenario, they couldn't destroy it before, right? It would survive a buster call. It would be right there. Yeah. So I don't think Vegapunk counted on it turning on. I don't think it's that. I think it's more of this is the best place for it, in so much as that it's kind of an actual secret safe place that could survive something like a buster call. And in that regard, it is protection. But really, it's just York kind of being, paying off her own logic. We still don't know
what that Iron Giant's going to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, that being said,
seems to be walking toward Luffy, but...
Yeah, I still think that there's a backup signal. I'm still holding on
with Dragon?
Somewhere.
Okay.
It just seems, if he went to this extreme, there has to be, right?
Well, the argument against that would be that he didn't have time and he was like constrained, but I'm not ruling anything out. QWERTY12011 said, "Yo, Fighting King, immediate response to go check Lelucia. SHIT's going down for real. Interesting that a piece was stolen rather than the whole mother flame being used to power it. But I suppose if you steal a piece of a smaller infinity, it is still infinity." And then, okay, so this commenter has a very, very interesting theory. Here we go, Travis. Listen up. Okay, maybe this is literally all a game? The theory that Joy Boy made the Grand Line the way it is. Maybe at the end, there's literally a poneglyph that is the rule book of the bet Joy Boy and the world government and Emu made that lets you know the win conditions. And Roger laughed because one of the conditions, just like Super Mario Maker, is that you have to have the Gum Gum fruit to be able to touch the flagpole. But for real, if it's a game, then there's a timer, whether it be for the end of a turn, the full game, or until some condition changes. Gold Roger laughed for real because it hasn't run out yet. I don't hate this, Travis. I think it's fun.
I love that idea.
That's so fun.
I've never heard of that. That it's a game?
It's a game.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Hence, like Rayleigh's just like, oh, don't tell them all the rules. You know what I mean? Of like, but have people. He wants it to be a fair competition.
It's a game that you don't know the rules to. That's bonkers. I love that. I genuinely love that.
We're gonna have to chalk that down as an A+.
Yeah.
Even if it's not true, it's just so fun.
I'm blown away by that. I have literally you hear a lot of One Piece theories and you hear a lot of crackpot One Piece theories, but I have never heard this even remotely similar idea.
Probably out there somewhere, but yeah.
I'm sure. I'm not necessarily saying that, but I'd say for me, this is some next level thinking.
We're gonna have to keep stewing in that one, and this commenter is cooking up a storm over there. Mad Marduk said, "I don't think Joy Boy was in possession of the ancient weapons during the actual war. I think Zunisha, the Iron Giant, and Shirahoshi in a past life were all from Joy Boy's country and betrayed him with the weapons. Afterward, they suffered punishment. That punishment seems to be guarding the ancient weapons. Zunisha leaves one under Wano or can raise it up and was being punished for a betrayal. The Iron Giant is being punished for a betrayal. I'm guessing he was guarding the ancient weapon that the world government now has and climbed the red line to marry Joa to recover it before being defeated. Shirahoshi's ancestor and the world government does hate fishmen, was perhaps punished to be reborn as an ancient weapon when the time is right. That weapon seems to require a host. The real question is, why do they make the water levels rise, and was that part of their design? Joy Boy was obviously a devil fruit user, or perhaps they had the abilities naturally in that country and became devil fruits. Seawater drains devil fruit users. Joy Boy would have no desire to make sea levels rise like that, but someone fighting against strong devil fruits would. Considering that it was just revealed that the islands are bits of a sunken continent, I also wonder if the sea originally weakened devil fruit users, or if the water created by the ancient weapons introduced that effect. I kind of lean more toward the idea that the devil fruits were didn't have that weakness before, and that was something that happened not because of the water itself, but because of something related to maybe the ancient weapons or the nature of what a devil fruit is. That's kind of where I lean. But I don't think I buy this idea that they betray, like Zunisha and then betray Joy Boy with the ancient weapons. I don't think that quite makes sense to me, Travis, because like if they were guarding the ancient weapons, if they betrayed him, but then they were still being punished by the world government. I don't know. There's something about that doesn't quite gel for me, honestly. But what do you think?
This is, again, one of those things where I'm still trying to understand which side everybody's on, right? Is the world being submerged good or bad? We can't seem to come to a good answer about this. Do we sink the red line or don't we sink the red line? Do we use the ancient weapons? Do we prevent their use? These are the things that are intentionally being obfuscated. And I think one of the clues to figuring it out is stuff like Zunisha being told to like walk the earth. Someone did that. That it's made very, very clear that someone told him to do that. I don't like the Alliance, aka the world government, seems like the culprit, right? That makes the most sense. But then you have to ask the question, why? Why is that? Why wouldn't they just get rid of the big elephant?
That's why, yeah. And I just feel so strongly that it was the ancient kingdom that was trying to use these weapons to sink the world originally. Like I'm just so convinced of that at this point, because it just makes the story way more interesting. It starts to add way more nuance to what the world government is and what motivates them and why they hate fishmen and like all this stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. I get that there are still lots of little missing pieces. And by the way, speaking of the sinking thing, Snicker Snack said the world is about to sink, so Rayleigh took up ship coding. JK, LOL. But yeah, no, I mean, it's not a bad. I saw some people joking about that, and the fact that Crocus has like a house inside a whale. You know, they got all that stuff is like, yeah.
No, we've done it all. Shanks doesn't have devil fruit users, right? Like everybody who could know just so happens to be positioned very well.
We don't know how much the Shanks knows, though.
If Big News Morgan's is a Roger pirate, where is Big News Morgan's office? It's in the sky, baby.
And he got himself a devil fruit that lets him fly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blood Brandy said, I don't think this is a recorded transmission. I think this is the Vegapunk and the Punk records actively transmitting from his own brain. Hence why the only ones on the screen are the ones who have been killed thus far, and why the timeline doesn't seem to match up for York. Interesting. I like how it does kind of explain why Pythagoras and Shaka are the only ones we really see, but I don't think that this, I don't know. I'm not saying it's not true, but I don't know if I buy it.
I feel like them being there is just dramatic irony. Sometimes sometimes it's the cover story character cameos, right? Like it's
raises the stakes.
Yeah,
because it's like if the message doesn't go out, nobody else can. Yeah.
It's for you to visually go, oh yeah, that's kind of funny. Like I don't think that it's. I think if it was meaning more, it would have already done that.
Yeah, I do. That said, though, I do want to know. At this point, like when it comes to that big brain in the tank, like, are we ever going to revisit that? Like, or are we just moving on? Like, what's going to happen there? Is it just going to die?
It's a great question. We have to leave, right? Like that's the plan, but I don't know. I don't know how this ends.
Saw some comments about Kaku looking kind of torn up about what happened there. Simba Crown said, yes, the big straw hat is an ancient weapon. What else would it be? Blue Curbo said, Oda's confirming theories every chapter now. That is how it feels. I know you kind of touched on that, but it does kind of feel, I think like last chapter was a little bit less of that, but this one, for sure, we were getting like way more info, or way more stuff like with the Iron Giant and continuing to kind of like really establish what the Roger Pirates know. So that, I felt I wasn't complaining as much this week, Travis.
Yeah. Even though it was short.
Yeah. BRNDNDSS said, With the elders probably shifting their attention towards the giant robot now, I hope we get its purpose explained now, and not when the Void Century gets revealed. Yeah, I think that this is going to help kind of consolidate all the chaos on the island into one location. So the Iron Giant's going over to Luffy, right? And Luffy is still kind of doing his thing as in the Nika for Year 5th mode. And we have all the elders kind of like coalescing toward him, the Iron Giant, and the regular giants and all that stuff. That could be our dramatic kind of egghead finale. I could see that being the case.
Yeah, I could see that.
Ignitia said, York, you didn't think that stopping to synchronize will also inform the others that you have done so? Synchronizing is a two-way street, after all. Not to mention, stopping to synchronize will also prevent you from accessing current information as well as any corrections that the Vegapunks have made after you stopped. Yeah, this bugs me, actually, because, like, if she does stop synchronizing and Vegapunk suspects that the flame was stolen, doesn't that make her the number one suspect? And they would know, right? I guess, like, the only thing you could try to say is, like, well, yeah, but she sleeps all the time, so who cares? But, like, I don't know, it still would make her a prime suspect to them, because they'd be like, well, maybe she's, using that as a cover. Like, they're supposed to be smart, Travis.
So, there is this line that York continuously pulls up, and it is in this chapter too, and that line is, I'm a Vegapunk too, which is not something that any of the other satellites have had to affirm at all in this arc. I think that's it. I think it's that they sell her short. And the flip side of that is that she is a Vegapunk too. And of all the people that Vegapunk would suspect, do you really think he would suspect himself?
Yeah? Well, maybe not. I don't know. But who else is in the labo phase? That's the thing that throws me off. It doesn't seem like a place that's open to newcomers alike.
It's a world government facility. There's nothing outside of that giant that he actually has secret.
They have cameras.
And hiding. Yeah.
They had Cypherpool kind of showing up. Maybe he thought it was a Cypherpool agent.
Yeah.
Because he thought that they were leaving the island.
Yeah, you have Cypherpool coming and going constantly. You have these mischievous little god children you've put together. Like
mischievous god children.
Like, you have options. I'm just saying, like, they're like it's hubris, right? Like, Vegapunk is ultimately a flawed human being. That's really the lesson here, right? Like, even the most genius scientist in the world couldn't prevent this from happening.
Chiefy00 said, sorry, I thought you were done.
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I think they just missed it. I think that's the point.
Chiefy00 said, I think Igaram crying over the missing poster of Vivi is a direct parallel to Emu looking at Lily just a few panels prior. Maybe the eyes don't just represent a berserker, but indicate intense emotion / obsessive passion, like Denjiro's face warping permanently due to his rage. Perhaps Emu's eyes changed to reflect what he feels from Lily's passing. I like the idea of like Emu's eyes kind of like changing and that being part of like what makes Emu Emu. I still kind of always, when I see those eyes, I just think of the Rasengan, honestly, or I think of like Mihawk and like, oh, is there like a cursed eye thing that we're going to get more info? I know we talked about that before with like, oh, maybe that's what Zoro is like holding out for when he fights Mihawk is like a cursed eye or something. I don't know.
People have made the Sharingan joke quite a bit in regards to Zoro. That much is abundantly true.
It's not far off. He's a much cooler version of Sasuke. I think that's where I stand, at least.
I wouldn't even compare the two.
Kenshin Goku said, is there any confirmation that Emu is a man? I wouldn't be surprised if Emu turns out to be Lily, because what's up with this obsession? After 800 years, you're still looking at pictures of Lily? Matter of fact, why is there even a picture of her? I think the picture is in the flower room too. So weird. Anyway. Oh, yeah?
Oh, no. Oh, there's more comment. Finish the comment.
There's more, but it changes the subject.
Okay, so something we didn't talk about to this point, and I'm glad the comments pointed out that it does, like, we have the Lily picture, and then it's paralleled with the Vivi picture to kind of make that mental connection. If you look at the Lily picture, it's damaged. Her eyes are obfuscated, and not in the normal Oda, kind of silhouettes people who have passed on. Like, her eyes seem to have been scratched out. So that's something. I've heard the Lily body being floated. I've heard the
we're doing the mummy
love
thing?
Triangle. Yeah, I've heard the love triangle thing. I don't know what it is. I personally am still a fan of my emu as a petulant child theory, where this is just being petty and mad. Something that I think is noteworthy is that he's looking at this picture in the context of listening to Vegapunk's podcast, for lack of I mean, that's really what we're looking at this point. It's not even a message. It's a whole episode
Rookie
of Serial.
Pirate Radio, beaming live from Egghead Island.
Yeah, and but all of this is possible because of the poneglyphs, which we now know are out in the world thanks to Lily somehow. So he's kind of blaming her again for this, and it seems kind of weird that he clearly knows that she did this, but asked Cobra how she signed it. Like, is he really just holding that much of a grudge? Like, it feels like that's Occam's razor on this, but it's just, you're right, we don't have Emu's gender confirmed, but I think we're going to be very close to having a voice actor for them, so something's going to happen. I would love for them to get the most androgynous voice possible.
Yeah, that's probably what it's... That's probably gonna be
just to really do it. Whatever it is, I don't want to discount any specific emu theory because there's a reason that we just haven't been able to see the silhouette. This is the most amorphous silhouette Oda's ever drawn. There has to be a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
The man loves his silhouettes.
Yeah, and don't forget, Emu talked about Lily a whole bunch with Sabo and stuff. So the implication to me has never been that Emu is Lily, but I think that yes, that something related to, or like a personal connection, a personal gripe, that seems to be where this is headed at the very least. But anyway, Kenshin and Goku did have more to their comment. They said anyway, how about the fact Joy Boy had all three ancient weapons? It's crazy to think that he not only had the power of Nika and had that robot and Zunisha as companions, but he had weapons capable of destroying the world and he still lost? Without a doubt, he must have been betrayed. His companions turned to slaves or were killed. This, for me, again, seems to be like he had the ancient weapons and they were meant to do what they did, Travis. But I just think that it was in service of the ancient kingdom, and ultimately he decided not to use them and decided to save, or maybe like even, he was the one who betrayed his own kingdom or something, but then ultimately was betrayed anyway. Maybe defeated or killed by the world government rising up to be the next ancient kingdom or whatever, and basically to do the same, atrocities and all of that. And that would be the real tragedy. I'm sticking to it, Travis. I'm not letting this go.
Yeah. And that's an interesting theory. I would like to posit, too, that maybe it's not, if we're dealing with a traitor, that it's not everyone betrayed Joy Boy. It was one traitor. And that's why we have two very different D-clan behaviors.
Well, on that note, this is an interesting question or comment from Tagahanga, who says, makes me wonder how Roger's crew are still alive all this time. I mean, they are strong, but knowing this biggest secret, you definitely hunt them down at the ends of the world. Heck, the elders are here. Also, hi Laboon with Luffy's wacky yard, lol. Yeah, I do kind of wonder about this, because do they just not know? Crocus is in a reverse mound, pretty easy to spot. And Rayleigh seems pretty obvious. That's Rayleigh. Showed up at Sabaody. It just seems like they don't have this motivation to hunt him down. I get that the counter argument, and maybe this is what you're gonna get at, is that no one's gonna believe Roger's crew, and you don't have the same thing that Vegapunk's doing, where he's revealing it from a very trusted source. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of the difference. But still, I'm just surprised that they're yeah, Ohara, we got get rid of it, no more. But it's well, they know all the secrets, but they get a pass.
I mean, we know that they have bounties, for one, still, or at least some of them do. I don't have a really good answer for that. It's the Zunisha thing, right? If it's specifically the world government doing everything, why not just, Buster call the heck out of everything? Why not go full fashy with it and just stormtrooper your way through all of it? This might be a situation where it's because they disbanded, because Roger turned himself in, maybe they just don't know that they know. Is that possible?
I guess. I mean, if they know about Laughtail and they know... I mean, if Vegapunk was able to figure it out, That maybe lends even more credence to Vegapunk knowing that they know because of a Roger pirate, not because of his research.
Yeah, because if I knew that all the secrets of the world were just still out there, and I spent all this time obfuscating it from history, if I knew that it was just out there, I would be trying to find it. Why are there no Marines tasked with finding the One Piece? That's weird, isn't it? Why has this never mattered to them outside of jailing pirates? That feels weird. Unless they didn't know what it was either.
We're thinking about.
Yeah.
I don't have the answers for you, Travis. I don't know.
That's so weird. We're getting into the real esoteric stuff. We're straight up Vegapunk at this point. We're like, why didn't they do this?
Why didn't you do that? Yeah. Well, Travis, those are all the comments. Was there anything else in the chapter that we did not get to that you feel is still in the air?
Oh, everything is still in the air. We didn't check in on like any Straw Hat during this at all.
Yeah, that's true. Not even Bonnie.
Yeah. I feel like this is basically like just like the next 60 seconds after the last chapter, so like we didn't really need to, but we're cutting it close on time, everybody.
It could mean we get like a whole episode and a half with no Straw Hats in it. It's like the Oden flashback all over again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. As if we didn't already have a Kuma flashback for the anime to do.
That's true. But yeah, it is kind of rare, though, to have no Straw Hats when it's like current events happening, outside of flashbacks. But yeah. Well, that's everything that I had. I hope Rayleigh has some nice rest. I guess he's getting drunk because he wants to black out and forget that Vegapunk is doing this. And I enjoyed this chapter a little bit more than the last one. Obviously, I'm at the edge of my seat with, what is going to be this finale. I think you and I both agree that, we're at chapter 1116. I think this arc, when did it start again? Like in the 1060s, late 1050s, something like that. I think we're about 60 to 70 chapters into this arc, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, man. Great question.
I'll do a quick Google search, but you have to distract the listeners.
Don't pay attention to John Googling. Take this time to go join the In Between Drafts Discord server, which not only can you see all of our spicy One Piece theories and tell us how wrong we are, but there's also plenty of other things going on in that Discord as well. We talk about other manga, for example, such as Chainsaw Man, the contents of which I cannot discuss on this podcast for many reasons. We talk about movies, TV, games, the works. Come hang out. We have some great emotes. It's a great time. Have you finished Googling?
A while ago, but I couldn't stomach to interrupt you. Chapter 1058. And so that means we're 58 chapters into this arc, and it looks like it'll be wrapping up soon. And pretty short for a One Piece arc. But this, by contrast, has been a very long episode of Rookie Pirate Radio. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back maybe with an anime roundtable. Not sure what we're going to do next week. It depends if we, for this coming, if we're going to have like a break again or not. We will deliberate, and you'll find out in the show notes, the Discord. But yeah, one other thing, if you like this podcast and you're like, I hope it continues to exist, please consider leaving us a rating on Apple Podcasts and let us know what you think of our show. We appreciate it, and thank you to the folks who have done that already. We really think you're nice. But yeah, that's it for Rookie Pirate Radio today.